An earthquake measuring 7 on the Richter scale hit Haiti at 4:45 p.m. on the 12th of January 2010, devastating the capital Port-au-Prince and the surrounding region.
Ma maison est tombée sur moi en courant. Je suis tombée. Pardon. Ma maison est en train de tomber sur mon pied. Mon pied écrasé. Tout ça.
Island's father died in the earthquake. It was her brother who took her to hospital. A 19-year-old student, Island has shown enormous courage. It's the first time she has stood up since her amputation. She will now be given follow-up care by physiotherapists from Handicap International. The earthquake, the most powerful to hit the region in 200 years, killed 230,000 people, injured 300,000 others, and left more than 1.5 million people homeless. Responsible for a humanitarian aid transport program in Haiti since 2008, when the country was hit by a series of devastating hurricanes, Handicap International took immediate action. Over the following weeks, it transported several hundred tons of humanitarian aid on behalf of 50 organizations, using the program's 45 lorries. The aid consisted mainly of water, food, cooking packs, and plastic sheets. Over the next few weeks, this logistical effort was extended to include the delivery of temporary shelters to the island's most isolated regions. It's January, and the injured, particularly amputees, are among those hardest hit by the emergency. When the surgeons in Haiti's hospitals have done all they can, Handicap International's health teams take over, providing the injured with post-operative follow-up care to minimize disabling after-effects. The association's physiotherapists have to deal with an exceptionally high number of amputees.
Le docteur a lutté de ne pas couper le pied. Il m'a fait 3 opérations avant. Il m'avait dit qu'il m'a amputé le pied, c'était juste pour sauver ma vie.
This support helps amputees become more self-reliant. It's important for lower limb amputees to stand up and start walking again as soon as possible. It was a painful process for Maryse.
En général, quand on les remet debout, le sang qui a l'habitude d'un corps allongé se retrouve subitement verticalisé. Donc souvent, ça tourne. Et deuxièmement, tout le sang qui normalement se retrouve dans la tête descend et il descend dans le moignon, entre autres. Donc ce moignon qui n'est pas cicatrisé prend beaucoup de sang en une fois et ça fait très mal.
As well as working in hospitals, our mobile teams provide medical support in local communities. Injured people who can't get to a hospital or whose injuries require follow-up care are finally able to benefit from medical attention.
Alors, pousse ma main, pousse ma main, pousse ma main. Pousse. Où est-ce que ça te fait mal? Dans le genou, là? Ça fait combien de temps que t'as pas déplié ton genou? Une semaine? Une semaine que t'es comme ça? Alors, ensemble, on essaye d'allonger ta jambe.
Expatriate and Haitian staff play an equally important role in Handicap International's work. The Haitian team was given intensive emergency training in the case management of people with fractures, amputees, and paralyzed persons. Three months later, in the devastated capital of Port-au-Prince, the clear-up and rebuilding work is gradually getting underway. The country was in a disastrous shape, both socially and economically, even before the earthquake, and the people of Haiti, particularly the 3 million inhabitants of Port-au-Prince, will feel the effect of the 12th of January for many years to come. To help all amputees identified during the initial stage of the emergency, Handicap International opened an orthopedic fitting center in March, managed in partnership with the Healing Hands for Haiti Association. Here, we meet up with Island again on her first visit to the center. Her stump has healed well, and she's going to be fitted with a temporary prosthesis. Half a dozen nationalities work side by side in the workshop, Berthaut, a professor of orthopedics from Don Bosco University in El Salvador, will produce the socket and supervise the production of the prosthesis, which will be finished by the end of the morning. Islan tries her prosthesis for the first time. It's always a difficult moment, a mixture of anxiety, pain, but also hope. Although these emergency prostheses are quick to produce, learning to walk with them takes time. You need a lot of courage to bear the pain and disappointment.
Oh, ça fait mal où?
Qui côté le fait mal là?
Ça fait mal là devant? C'est normal, c'est le début.
Por el momento todo se ve bien y así es que hasta aquí vamos a llegar y después vamos a programar ya las citas para la próxima.
Miriam also has a lot of willpower and patience. Seriously injured during the earthquake, Miriam was taken by her husband to a hospital in the Dominican Republic. Although the surgeons operated straight away, they were unable to save her right leg. Amputated at the femur, she began to walk again a few days ago. She lives in a tent with her family. Her 6-year-old son owes his life to her.
J'étais à la maison avec mon fils. Ensuite, j'ai entendu le bruit. Cela ne m'a pas donné le temps de courir parce que ça s'est passé trop vite. Donc, en voulant épargner mon fils, donc le bloc est tombé sur mon pied. Parce que si le bloc lui était tombé sur la tête, il serait mort. Ça, c'est sûr. J'ai des amis qui, aujourd'hui, auraient aimé être là et malheureusement qui ne sont pas là. Donc, le fait d'être amputé, ça ne veut pas dire que la vie soit finie. Au contraire, la vie doit continuer. Donc, je l'accepte. En fait, je m'accepte comme je suis, tout d'abord.
Along with the technical aspects of orthopedic fitting and rehabilitation, the human dimension, self-esteem, is an everyday concern for Handicap International's teams.
S'il y a des séquelles, on essaie de les minimiser. Je pense qu'il faut s'attacher à la personne globalement. Quand le monsieur nous demande 3 fois ou 4 fois s'il faut passer une radio, c'est qu'il n'a pas été secouru et qu'il est encore dans une demande de « rassurez-moi, est-ce que ça va aller ?» Et là, effectivement, il faut commencer à avoir un peu plus d'humanité. C'est pas de la technique, c'est vraiment de la prise en charge.
Talking, reassuring and creating bonds helps you gain a better understanding of each situation. In a dozen disability focal points around the country, we don't limit rehabilitation care to earthquake victims alone. Set up rapidly by the association, these focal points provide all vulnerable and disabled people with access to humanitarian aid during emergencies. In direct contact with the local population, Handicap International's teams were able to gauge the extent of the psychological shock suffered by many survivors, particularly the injured. That's why providing psychosocial support became a top priority. Discussion groups are organized every day, like here at the Champ de Mars focal point. People talk about their problems, fears, doubts and futures. Some are shocked, others resigned or bewildered.
Mais si ma vivre encore là, je vais dire bon Dieu merci. Même jour fait à nous compter. Moi je dis on va comme demain quand même connaît. Est-ce que nous connaît 11 janvier, 12 janvier ça t'a arrivé, nous pas.
Nine months after the earthquake, Haiti was hit by another disaster. In November, a cholera epidemic spread rapidly from the center of Haiti to the rest of the country. The authorities responded immediately, supported by international organizations. A logistics platform of 70 lorries managed by Handicap International was used to supply aid, treat infected patients, and prevent the disease from spreading further. But poor sanitary conditions and a shortage of basic services, such as the distribution of drinking water and the treatment of wastewater, mean that hope is in short supply. Handicap International's mobile teams have responded to the situation by providing cholera prevention advice as part of their work. Patient visits are followed by group awareness sessions whenever possible. This disease, which disappeared from the region more than a century ago, is unfamiliar to the population and has given rise to some outlandish theories. These sessions are used to provide people with information and to explain that although cholera is a deadly disease, if caught quickly enough, it's relatively easy to treat. What's more, people can protect themselves by taking simple hygiene precautions. Unfortunately, the information and care available to vulnerable people is even more limited. The mobile teams also apply these essential hygiene practices to protect both themselves and beneficiaries. Thanks to these precautions, they can continue helping people affected by the earthquake of the 12th of January in complete safety. Launched in March in the region of Petit Goâve, 60 kilometers from Port-au-Prince, a project to build temporary shelters is continuing as planned. Although these wooden shelters are built using traditional local methods, their structures have been strengthened to resist natural disasters such as earthquakes and the storms that regularly hit the island. Each element, such as these panels, is produced in a workshop using a local method called glissade.
Déjà, la construction en bois, c'est déjà une construction qui résiste bien au tremblement de terre. En plus, il donne l'opportunité aux gens de s'approprier de leurs abris. Et ça, c'est le point fondamental. Ce n'est pas un abri qu'on fait, qu'on construit, et d'ici un an, il est complètement détruit. C'est un abri que les gens eux-mêmes, ils peuvent l'améliorer en travaillant sur le glissade.
The first people to benefit from these shelters were identified by the Disability Focal Point in Petit Goâve. A team of community workers identified the site, prepared the community and involved families and neighbours in the building work, which can be completed in 3 days. Handicap International ensures its shelters are accessible to the people living in them. This is the case here, where a ramp has been added to a house which now belongs to Philomène and her partner. This young couple of Haitians lost everything in the earthquake. Philomène has a Talipes-type congenital deformity. She was identified as a priority by Handicap International's mobile teams in a camp for displaced persons. A shelter doesn't come with a job or food, but when you're starting from scratch, it's an essential first step. Thanks to this shelter, they can start rebuilding their lives. We return to Port-au-Prince, where we find Islande at the orthopedic fitting workshop. She was fitted with her permanent prosthesis several months ago, but it needs a few improvements. It's the role of the orthoprosthetic technician to follow up Islande and maintain her prosthesis. Sometimes the prosthesis is a little painful or rubs in a new place and needs a few minor changes. The orthopedic devices worn by growing children need constant alteration. The workshop has made a lot of progress since the emergency stage. Technicians now produce permanent prosthesis and numerous orthoses. The centre also fits upper limbs and handles all sorts of recent and long-standing disabilities. It also offers additional services such as psychosocial follow-up care. For Islande, her painful rehabilitation sessions are now a thing of the past. She is now perfectly at ease with her false foot, as they call it here. Islande occasionally returns to the house she shared with her father, who died in the earthquake. Islande doesn't know where or how he died. She's never seen his body. She was unable to say goodbye and finds it hard to begin the mourning process. She lives in a displaced persons camp in the same neighborhood. She shares a makeshift shelter with her cousin, who works and has 2 children. Despite her initial reluctance and her family's financial problems, Islande has been able to return to school. At first, she was frightened by how others would react, but now she is determined to succeed. Every day she walks to school where lessons are given under a tent. Currently in the lower 6th, Islande expects to take her exams this year.
Depuis là et pour ça dans l'école là. Depuis à l'école, vous devez maintenant entrer tout pour passer. Et pour ça aller.
Next year, Islande will take her baccalaureate exams, but like many other students, she finds it hard to imagine what the future holds.
Si je gagne l'argent, je prends la faculté, mais si je n'ai pas l'argent, c'est comme minimum.
When people ask Islande what she misses most, she talks about her foot, of course, but especially her father. Islande wants to play a full role in society again. She needs to pass her exams and take a training course to find a job. Although she has fought hard until now, the road ahead will be long and difficult. We meet up with Miriam again, her daughter and son Dario, who she narrowly saved during the earthquake. Although her family survived, Miriam has not escaped the problems facing most Haitians. Before the earthquake, her husband ran a small shop, but it was destroyed and looted. He has no money or stock. The biggest problem facing Miriam and her family is finding a home. Their house was destroyed and now they are living in a tent. Like all displaced persons in the capital, they fear being made homeless at any moment. Rents in Port-au-Prince are now too high for Miriam to afford, even though she's returned to work. This is a university in Port-au-Prince. Miriam has worked here as a librarian for 11 years. She was fitted with her permanent prosthesis in July and was able to return to work when the university reopened in October. The principal promised to take her back despite her amputation, and she'll never forget the day she was able to return to work as normal.
Lorsque je suis arrivée, tout le monde était là, à m'attendre. Le doyen, le vice-doyen, tout le monde. Tout le monde du secrétariat, de la clinique, même les étudiants, tout le monde était là. Ça faisait plaisir, ça faisait grand plaisir. Mais avec la prothèse, c'est mieux parce qu'il y a des va-et-vient que je dois faire à la bibliothèque. Donc avec les béquilles, ça aurait été un peu difficile, mais avec la prothèse, c'est mieux.
Restoring their role in society and the family unit is a challenge faced by everyone seriously injured in the earthquake of the 12th of January. In Haiti, we've noticed a certain solidarity towards victims of the disaster. Is it temporary or a sign that attitudes are changing? Let's hope Miriam is not an exception to the rule. Handicap International has opened a reception centre in Port-au-Prince where amputees from isolated areas stay until their orthopedic devices are ready. They live here with their families and receive rehabilitation care. Here we meet up with Maryse again. After being fitted with her prosthesis, she was offered a job as an administrative assistant. She and her colleagues ensure the day-to-day management of the centre. Watching her help patients rehearse a play, you'd never guess the ordeal Maryse has gone through since her amputation. Suffering from a lung abscess and stomach troubles, Maryse spent 2 months on oxygen before she recovered.
On m'a opéré une fois au poumon, 3 fois au ventre et 6 fois au pied. Ça fait en tout 10 fois. Et jusqu'à présent, j'ai gardé ma tête haute et forte. J'ai jamais perdu l'espoir. Quand j'étais à l'hôpital de Chouscal, j'ai mes familles qui vivent de la France. Ils m'appellent de là, ils me disent « Maryse, la vie est finie ». Je disais « Non, la vie n'est pas finie. Si vous m'appelez pour me décourager, ne me rappelle plus ».
When Maryse recovered, her determination and the support of her children meant she was fitted extremely quickly. She takes a calm and enthusiastic approach to her work. When a team decides to organize a wheelchair race, for example, she passes on this thirst for life to the other patients.
Maintenant, j'ai une vie nouvelle, toutes les choses sont devenues nouvelles. Oui. Avec la prothèse, je suis une nouvelle Maryse.
Raynan is 9 years old. On the 12th of January, a section of wall fell on her leg. A few days later, her leg was amputated. Her life could have been ruined forever, but thanks to the support of her family and Handicap International, Raynan's life is just like any other little girl's, including her twin sister. Unfortunately, her father's business was destroyed in the earthquake. He does odd jobs and barely manages to scrape enough money together to look after his family.
Non, juste les petits monde on connaît petits monde sont obligatoires pour voir l'école, sont un droit parent pour voir l'école. Mais c'est problème qui viennent arriver qui viennent cause moins pas en midi.
At 6:30 in the morning, Raynan and her sister leave for school, where they stay until 1 in the afternoon. Not sending your children to school is frowned upon in Haiti, but schools are expensive. Only 15% of schools are public, and parents have to pay to send their children to private schools. On top of the fees, uniforms, books and transport all need to be paid for. The grants provided by the state fall far short of covering these costs. Raynan was initially very reluctant to return to school. The head did everything possible to make her feel comfortable right from the start.
Un jour, elle est venue. Le lendemain, elle m'a dit qu'elle ne va plus retourner. Je lui ai demandé pourquoi. Elle m'a dit que les autres portent une jupe, moi j'ai un pantalon. Elle dit c'est vrai, j'ai demandé aux parents de mettre un pantalon pour toutes les autres.
Raynan no longer has a problem with her prosthesis at school, but her parents haven't been able to pay her fees since the start of the term. The head says they can pay later, but for how long?
Ces photographies montrent des paysages différents. D'un côté des paysages naturels où la plante pousse seule. De l'autre des paysages humanisés où l'on retrouve le travail des hommes. Fini.
Going to school, finding a job, learning to live in a devastated country. The challenges facing Haitians are enormous. But these courageous people are determined not to give up despite their ordeal, as shown by the stories of Island, Miriam, Maryse, Raynan and many others. Dedicated to helping the most vulnerable people, Handicap International will remain at their side for many years to come.
Potale.